I thought that when looking at the various signs of our Lord's impending coming, I thought it's strange as to how it's described in the days of Noah. If you read the account on Genesis, it talks about how the imagination of man's heart was only evil continually. And we're very easy to point that out. That's why the Lord's coming. The imagination of man's heart. Just evil. All we're thinking of are evil things, things that please ourselves. And it matters not if someone is hurt by it. In fact, you get a wicked pleasure out of seeing somebody hurt. I've seen it happen. And it's actually quite despicable. So I would always say the Lord will let people know what's going on there. But it also talks about how violence has veiled the land. And we can see the level of violence that's taking place. Now, again, it's not the actual number in a particular place. It's what happens all over the world. So even if crime in America goes down 20, 50, 70, 80%, that doesn't completely nullify what's happening around the world. But that's not really what surprises me. But what surprises me about the signs of the times is that Jesus says there'll be eating, there'll be drinking, there'll be marrying, and giving in marriage. In other words, it's not the wickedness, although it's there. It's not the violence, although it's there. It's the complete obliviousness of people to the Lord's impending coming. So we set plans to get married to somebody. Oh, I want to marry this person. I want to marry. In fact, I don't want the Lord to come until I marry so-and-so. That's when it becomes really dangerous for you. Because as much as you may love that person or want to be with that person, the Lord always takes full or first in one's life. And if the Lord is not first, then he may take that person away from you. I'm not saying that God will kill that person, but we have to make sure that our allegiance, first and foremost, must be to Jesus himself. Not to Aunt May, not to Uncle Donald, not to Grandma or Grandpa, not to hubby or wifey. No, but to Christ. Marrying and giving in marriage. I've read an article about how many not all marriages, but how many marriages in India are. How that the bride's family is supposed to pay for all of the stuff. They're supposed to organize the entertainment, get the cake or whatever it happens to be, get the ballroom or whatever it happens to be. So you have to understand, Not everybody in India lives in grass huts. But many of them are actually quite affluent. And that's also why it's so difficult for them to move from the caste system, because if you're one of those undesirables as a female, you can't give anything to the marriage. So why should my son marry you? That's how the thinking goes. Not that you're a human being and my son loves that woman. It's whatever they can do for me, the parent, the one that helps. I think the reason why is because always it's been the male that's been most desired. And if you have a family full of males, that's a family that can actually work out in the fields, gather the crops, and really make a influence on the affluence of a particular family. Girls can't do that, at least not traditionally. And that's why in many cases, they would actually kill the girl children because that child is not wanted. It doesn't add to the value. Again, this is not how India is now, but that's how certain parts of India was. And again, it depended a lot regarding the caste system. Whereas if you were put in a particular position, no matter what you may try to do, you can't move up or down. You will always be in that position. That sounds worse than even what black people have went through here. Although on the same time, you can't really compare that to slavery, but you can compare that to the struggle for black men and women to carve out a niche for themselves in this world, unless it's at the lower rung of society. But hey, I'm getting away from myself here. The deal with marriage, marrying and giving in marriage. In other words, there's a sort of normalcy about the time when Christ comes. People will be eating and drinking. That is not just you going to McDonald's or Jack in the Box and giving yourself a Big Mac or a Jumbo Jack. It's about partying and just having yourself a hilariously good time. And I think that the thing was that, once more, you're not thinking about God, not thinking about it would be better to serve the Lord because his treasures are much better for us. That's not what one thinks, which is sad. In fact, when you're going out to a party, you're not even thinking about, so please don't tell me or tell anyone that I'm just going to think about God as I'm going to this party. No, you're not. You're thinking about essentially who you're going to be with on that particular night. And if you can find someone that you can be with on that particular night, or how much fun you're going to have, and maybe someone can explain, how can someone have fun, true fun, if you're downing alcohol? So much so that you can't even drive straight. But you do it anyway. You're endangering the lives of all the people on the road for you to have fun. Fun that you're able to not hold on to any inhibitions. Possibly because essentially you're holding on to things that seems to be something that essentially it makes you more careful. People don't want you to be careful. They want you to spill the beans. That's why people laugh when you dance on a table. People laugh when you are swirling around and you end up falling because your equilibrium is messed up. Why? Because you drank so much. But the key here is this, that neither when you are talking about marriage and putting on weddings, or you're thinking about partying and just consuming everything there. In neither case are you really thinking about Jesus. You're not. And that's why, essentially, Jesus said, as in the days of Noah, so thou shall also be, or that's how it shall also be, days of the coming of the Son of Man. Because you're oblivious to what's about to happen. People don't want to think of all the problems that are taking place in this world. You can see it whether you're saved or not. You can see pollution that is not only is it pandemic, but that it's harder and harder to scrub everything clean. How many of you ever thought about all those satellites that are around the earth? Not the ones that are working, but the ones that are not. And they're swirling around the atmosphere, even though their useful life is ended some time ago, but they're all up there around the earth. There are fears right now that such a thing would come down, burn up. And although most of it would burn up in the atmosphere, some portion of it may end up staying until it hits the ground, hit someone's house, hit someone's street, hit someone, and it wouldn't be a pretty sight. But that's litter. We have space litter that we haven't even dealt with, as well as what's on the earth. No, we don't throw as much paper on the side of the freeway, although I do see quite a bit, which is why people have to go there, close an on-ramp or off-ramp in order to clean those areas. Not to mention the evidence that people keep putting forth, whether you believe it or not, but they keep putting forth the evidence of climate change. They just said it, read something on TV that we've been looking at it. I'm not saying not all wrong, but we haven't paid more attention to how warm it stays at night. It doesn't get real cold anymore. It's not freezing anymore. And I have to say that I have not had to put on the heater in this house since December or January, when it was an ample amount of rain falling, and especially when some snow would follow. But you would think that with all these things happening, as well as upheavals in the world, wars and rumors of war, earthquakes in various places, volcanoes erupting, all these things that take place, we would think there has to be the Lord's coming. But the fact that all you're thinking about, you're not thinking about that. You're thinking about how much fun you're going to have at the next party. You're thinking about how I'm going to marry somebody. And that person has to look so tall and have such a shape and hair either long or for a lady talking about, maybe the man's head can be bald. But you're thinking about getting hooked up with somebody. Problem is you're not thinking about God. And sometimes we saints fall in that same rut that we're thinking about these celebrations that we're going to have. We're thinking about the feasts that we're going to go to. We think about possible marriage to some person in the church. And all that seems admirable, to be able to attend things that the brothers and sisters in Christ are doing, and to be able to get married to someone who's of like faith. That's all good. But do you remember the Lord is coming? I'm not saying to be paranoid about it. I'm not saying to lock your house and make sure that essentially you have 45 days worth of food and everything. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about putting the Lord first in your life. Making sure that He is the one to whom you're responding to. That you're not just thinking about the next get together, the next party, the next event. And then you begin to think, boy, I hope the Lord doesn't come before we have this event. That's when you slip in the danger zone. Because God can come at any time, whether you like it or not. And if you have that attitude, you're not going. Let me repeat that again. If you have the attitude that you want the Lord to postpone His time because you want to get married, or you want to see someone at a certain place, or you want to have fun right now. That's what Christ is talking about. And they knew not until the day that Noah entered into the ark. Because remember, the Lord shut the door. It wasn't Noah. The Lord shut the door, making sure that He couldn't open it. And doesn't say what they did, but I can imagine once the water began to fall from the sky, once incursions upon the land were made, when the fountains of the deep were broken, I can imagine him coming and knocking and crying, "Open, open, open. We believe you now. Noah, we believe you." It's too late. And yes, I do believe there's going to be a tribulation period. And I do believe in the snatching away of the church, because that's what they preached. That's what the apostles preached. That's what John was representing in heaven in the guise of the 24 elders. But in any case, if you're not looking for the Lord to come, then He will not be coming for you. But I do know this: there will be many who would be so heartbroken once they realize the saints are gone. I can imagine them just wailing, and grieving, and their eyes are watery from all the tears and the crying, because they know what they're going to have to go through. And they know who they miss. So, it's not just people doing what they would normally do, saints of God. That's how we've taken that particular verse. And to a certain extent, that's true. But there's a reason why the Lord said, mentioned about the marriage, giving in marriage, and eating and drinking. Because most people want to party. And they want to have fun. They don't think about Jesus. And when you want to marry someone, you don't want anything stopping it. Lord, just hold off for a few more days until this person comes. That's not what the Lord does. But I will repeat what I had said. It's not biblical, but it's definitely something that bears thinking. That if you're not looking for the Lord to come for you, then the Lord is not coming for you. May God bless you, and may He keep you. I love you all, and no matter whether you're married or not, single, whatever, keep looking up, because our redemption draws nigh. Love you all, and Sister Guthrie, God bless you. You take care of yourselves. In Jesus' name.